Hey everybody, this is Bevin. Welcome to Bevin, a femme over 40 and her friends podcast. I'm your host, Bevin, and I've said my name three times. It's time to start the show. Shout out to Biscuit Reynolds, my co-host in spirit. My cat, for those of you who are just joining me for the first time, he passed away a few months ago. He used to be my co-host in body. Anyway, whatever. This is part of the lore of Bevin's podcast. I wanted to redo my intro for Erica's podcast. We filmed this like 3 weeks ago, and I remember we talked about her doing a big hullabaloo for Richard Simmons' birthday, and she really wanted to make it a national holiday. And then today is July 15th, and he passed away on Saturday, and his birthday was on Friday. So it's kind of wild, like, that all of this has happened, that I hadn't yet posted the podcast. And I just want to say a little bit more than just like posting an Instagram story in passing about him, just because, you know, I hate his aerobics. I just hate him. I love Richard Simmons, but his aerobics are like so body negative and just so focused on weight loss. And I know that was his own personal obsession. And I don't like, I actually love when people are hyper focused on something. I really enjoy other people who are very passionate, right? And so, like, his passion and his personality are like what I really enjoy so much about him. But like, I don't know, like certain things I just truly hate. I don't like to be on the floor to do aerobics, like, especially in a fat body. It's just harder. Like, you just have a different interaction with gravity and like mass, and like you can do the same work on a floor as a thin person and have totally different experience because of weight resistance, and that's just a neutral fact of gravity, right? um like, so he does a lot of floor work. He does a lot of like arduous counting things. And anyway, so my favorite, but here, I don't want to complain about somebody. This is just me being so authentic. I loved his spirit and his energy and his personality, and I became an aerobics instructor. I started conceiving my class in 2016 after the Missing Richard Simmons podcast came out. And if you haven't listened to that, I highly recommend. He has such an incredible life. And that was such a beautiful love letter to people who are very emotionally affected by his choice to disappear. Like, literally, he ghosted everyone in his life, uh, other than like his housekeeper and his brother. And like, I have had so much experience with people ghosting. And I have a lot of compassion for the things that like kind of lead up to someone feeling like they don't have a choice other than just to depart, right? But what I heard in that podcast was like I had already done level 2 of Reiki certification by that point. I was like, oh, this is someone who like has no energy boundaries like at all, like, and also doesn't have codependency boundaries at all. And I was just like, huh. And I was put in exercise as a small child as a punishment. So like, well, that's how I experienced it. It was a punishment for having a fat body, that there was something I needed to apologize for, and that you know, it's just so fascinating, like listening to his like history of like how his disordered eating and like how he crash dieted and stuff like that and wanted to learn a better way. And you know what? Like, I'm grateful he existed, and I'm grateful for his aerobics. I do sometimes do his aerobics here and there because I own like every DVD I could get a hold of. I think I have like at least 10 Richard Simmons DVDs, and there are more I want to root out. And Erica on this podcast has like an incredible library of classic VHS aerobics, including a lot of Richard Simmons. I think she liked working out with Richard more than I did, but I liked his spirit, and I really liked how he taught, and like how he connected to his students. And so I've learned a lot from him. Take what you like and leave the rest, always, especially with me. I just want to give that to you. But this is my favorite Richard Simmons dance move, which is where he pumps his heart. He holds his hands in a heart shape. People were doing this long before Taylor Swift, everybody. He pumps his heart on his heart, and then he releases it. He says, "That's from me to you," or something cute like that. And so I do this when I teach the song Burning Up by Madonna. I say, "Love never returns void." And we re-release the love. But that was one. Another one he does, I do it as a witch on a broomstick with like one arm opposite the leg up. You just hold your core while you do it. It's a good one. Anyway, I love Richard Simmons for existing. My next aerobics series has always, like, it's been planned in my heart and mind for a very long time. I just don't have the means yet to produce it, but I want to do a remake of the Sweat into the Oldies prom, but not call it Sweat into the Oldies, just like a remake of the prom with a live band. And I've been practicing teaching with a live band, teaching with live band recordings. So anyway, I still don't feel like it's real. Like it still feels like an internet rumor, like he's not really dead. And I just wanted to just put this in a place somewhere where people could listen to it. And instead of just like, a bypass, like, Instagram story moment. And then he gets overshadowed because Shannon Doherty and Dr. Ruth died the same weekend. What a weekend. What a life. What on earth in 2024, July. What's going to happen in August? Who knows? Precedented times are over, everybody. My friend Erica Nix, I will say I'm very grateful that I heard the news from my mutual friend with Erica, Amelia, who is the Pony Sweat aerobics founder. So me, Amelia, Erica, our friend McKay, like there's a whole bunch of us in this like freak queer aerobics teacher, like we just know each other. Um, from existing. And I think I met Erica actually through Amelia. And so Amelia was the one who broke the news to me through that text chain. And so I'm grateful to have heard it from a friend who loves aerobics and loves Richard in a very similar way. And yeah, I'm just grateful to have existed on Earth at the same time as Richard Simmons. And I'm sad I never got to take a class in person, but I probably would have hated it. So I did take his DVDs. Like I try to do it once a year, at least a few of his classes. Because there is like there's just this like 80s aerobic spirit that like vibes through him. Oh, at the end of my workout video series, which you can get, there's a link in my show notes always. At the end of my workout video series, I remade because he has people like do this dance walk at the end of his videos and show how much weight they've lost in pounds. So I just had people say their name and like their identities and like what they're representing. And that was really special. And I'm really glad I reclaimed that. And I was inspired by Richard. And that's like what I want my legacy to be. Like I'm sure there's lots of things I say and do unconsciously that it can be better, right? Like Richard's obsession with weight loss was not, I think, his great attribute, right? It's his personality, right? So you take what you like and leave the rest. You build on the shoulders of the people you admire in some way, right? And like you love people anyway, even if they can't ever be perfect because no one can be perfect, right? It's codependent to expect people to be perfect, to expect yourself to be perfect. Anyway, Erica's amazing. I'm really excited for you to meet her. She is such a Gemini magic person that we barely get. We go a lot of places in our wonderful conversation, including talking about Richard. So happy birthday and happy becoming an ancestor to Richard Simmons. We're going to miss you. To support this podcast is my Patreon page, Patreon, patreon.com/FKDP, which stands for Fat Kid Dance Party Aerobics, which is my aerobics class for anyone who feels left behind by mainstream fitness. If you've ever been called too much, too fat, or felt too awkward to dance, mine is the supportive class for you. I hope you will give it a shot. I also teach spiritual self-care lessons. I do so much in the Patreon, but I also like love to create art like this that's free for people because I really want you to learn how many ways there are to be a happy, successful adult. So I have my podcast, which is free. Then I also have my blog, queerfatfemme.com, which I've been writing in since 2008. And I've always been pursuing my joy, right? It's called the relentless pursuit of my joy because that's what it's been. I've grown so much over the last like 16 years. I hope you will have much grace for younger me writing whatever I wrote. But it's there. It's there for you if you want my own unique perspective on whatever. You can Google queerfatfemme.com space and then whatever your query is and see what I've written about it. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. And I take requests. You can email me fatkiddanceparty@gmail.com if you ever have questions or anything for a future podcast episode. I would love to support you. And there's other ways to support me, Venmo, buy me a snack, Amazon wishlist, all that's in the show notes. So thank you for tuning in. I'm very excited to introduce you to Erica and on with the show. Erica Nix, welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
Yay, me too. I'm so happy to be here. We've
Yay.
already
Okay.
had,
Oh my
yeah,
God. We've already had such a fun pre-show conversation,
yeah.
none of which is recorded. TLDR, if you grew up anytime after us. It's we're just, sending love to you for dealing with social media and school shootings on top of all the other trauma of school.
Yes. Yeah. That was probably the least fun thing we talked about, but
It was. I mean, also, like early performance art, naked stuff that's not on the internet because it was early. Like that was good too. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
okay. Erica Nix is a Gemini sun, Sagittarius moon, Libra rising, born on the full moon, and like a true Gemini and Sagittarius moon, honestly, your exploration of the world through your endeavors and what you offer in business is so vast. And I would love to hear how people can interact with you business wise, because we always start business in the front on the podcast.
Oh, right. Business in the front. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different ways. I have my Patreon as you do. So giving those workouts, live Zoom classes, and then a whole archive where you are on it as well as my workout partners. There's some videos that we've traded. So that's exciting. And we have, and some like longer, more pro one, videos on there that, and then just like real fun ones. So, oh, my VHS mashup, which I think you have too, right, Bevan?
It is truly your finest work of anything you've done. The VHS mashup. Erica goes into vintage VHS recordings of aerobics and like talks about them and works out with them and says maybe don't do this move, for these
Yeah,
reasons. Like they did some crazy stuff back in the day.
it's true. It's so fun. And I even like stretch next to Angela Lansbury, which is really great. My BFF, Jessica, is such a great editor. That took her forever to do, and I'm so grateful. So yeah, that's a way that you can interact with me from anywhere. And then I have hypnosis as well, which is a surprise. Yeah.
I didn't know about the hypnosis before the episode, but it totally tracks. So, how do you help people with hypnosis?
Well, most of the stuff that I have gotten into is like I do a lot of self-esteem stuff, obviously, but also like quitting smoking, quitting drinking. Actually, I can't believe it. My teacher was like, that's really hard. I wouldn't necessarily, it's like she basically was like, I wouldn't do that. And I told my person, I was like, this isn't, I can't promise, but I got an email like a year later that was like, hey, I haven't drank since. So that was incredible. I know it's all the power of the mind. It's so incredible. A lot of sugar. A lot of people come to me with sugar because that is kind of like it's the last one, right? It hangs on so tight, so hard.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I love cessation kind of stuff, but I really went into it because I'm trying to develop my stage hypnosis show, which is like just taking forever because it takes confidence. It's like the number one thing. And it's hard to have confidence in something you've never done before.
Mhm.
So
Experience
yeah,
is what builds confidence, and so you just gotta start before you're ready.
I know. Doesn't that sound crazy though? Just to get on stage and hypnotize people on the stage before you feel ready. Ah.
I mean, it's a lot
Um,
of responsibility getting into someone's subconscious mind. So, you do it
right.
amongst friends.
That's true. I guess on some level, the stage is more like fun and like like having people like do fun things that are it's a performance, that people you're not gonna ever do something that you don't want to do. Like I'm not gonna be able to say, Bevan, take off your clothes. You're not gonna like take off your clothes if you don't really want to do it. In fact, like even when they do propose like that. Anyway, I'm not gonna do one of those gross shows where people are humiliated. That's not the idea anyway. But when you put it that way, it actually makes me feel like a little bit more free to try it because it's not built to really like have any kind of like permanent like impression on you. Although of course the one I want to do is supposed to like help everybody love themselves for exactly who they are in the moment and like an ecstatic performance way. So, but I think, I don't, it doesn't sound too dangerous, does it?
No, at the core, you're just a
Yeah.
weirdo queer performance artist here for love.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I do usually. And I feel like I already, and you know how it is, like you do it through movement too. So when you're dancing, like you're like, if anyone here hasn't done your workouts, like I've learned so much from you, really, and like the way you talk to people about moving their bodies and releasing things. And I really loved collaborating with you because of that stuff, like just being really transparent around it. And I always feel like I'm like kind of just like sneaking people into like falling into the moment, And I love how you like call it out. You're like, right now,
Mhm. I
this
really,
amazing thing's
I
happening.
I take it so seriously, like being with someone while they're moving their bodies because it's a trust fall, you know what I mean? And I don't think people think about like who they're in the room with when they work out, like how tender
Mm-hmm.
that is to your psyche and about how you see your body. And like, yeah, there are absolutely people who only want to work out with folks who are going to treat their body like trash and like be mean to their body because they still believe that about their body, but it's just a white supremacist lie that there's
Mm-hmm.
something wrong inherently with this only body you're ever going to have. It's just be in the now moment, release all of your past baggage, and just be like people work out with people they like. And so I feel like, and you and I are both like showgirls, inherently. So like there's something to like, oh, this is like a drag show, but it's like 55 minutes long. And like we're gonna sweat together and have fun, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever have people ask you they're like, do you want to be a comedian or you could be like they try to like they try to separate it in a way. And I don't mind it. It's really nice. Like what a compliment to think I'm so funny. I could be a professional funny person. But it's like that is what we're doing, but through this other way. And that's the way I like to do it.
yeah.
Um, like
If you're
Richard Simmons.
I know. I'm very Richard Simmons as you are, very Richard Simmons inspired. And like we were talking about this in the pre-show about like how when you look at people and they're successful and wealthy, like what's their lifestyle like and how are they? Because like comedians don't seem like happy people. They seem, and in fact, they don't. They often say how miserable they are. Like that's not something I'm interested in. Like as funny as I can be on stage, like I'm just here to have a good time and help people feel good and have a good and peaceful, fun life myself. So, okay.
Yeah. I yes.
Oh, I
Oh,
want
with
you to keep going if
business.
you have but I want you to keep telling because there's many things people can do with you in Austin, Texas.
That's true. So I do splash dance on Sundays during the summer, which is really fun. And that's what I was gonna say. I do dive into my more sometimes I shake. I like to use it like I just tell a bunch of jokes and sometimes they're a little they're not always uplifting, I'd say. I like to talk about what I'm going through and somehow it really works. Everyone leaves uplifted. But even though I'm not necessarily being that positive about what I'm going through, they're like laughing about it in the water and feeling like little babies in the belly. So that's a huge fun success. And it's been selling out. There's only like limited space. Obviously, it's a pool. So it's like 25 people a class and it always like sells out, of course. So it's really fun.
Congratulations selling out a workout class. I love
Yeah,
it. That's a
yeah,
big deal.
yeah, yeah. It's really fun. And then I do some classes like around town and events and stuff. So you can always find those on my website.
Which will be in the show notes. Erica Nix, um, what time do you do your pool class?
It's at 10 a.m.
10 a.m. That's a good prime time,
Yeah.
but not
Oh, actually, I'm gonna be in P Town in August, and I'm gonna do it one at the clam something, the clam. It's like I guess it's like a lesbian party, but I think it's like for whoever.
that's
Clam
exciting.
Jam. It should be really fun.
You're on the road.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
A gay vacation
So
special.
I've always wanted to see Dina Martina in her element in P Town because she has that residency there. And then Shaboom will be there with like Silky and Paul and Lex, um, who I think is also going to be. They have a little tour, so I kind of planned it around that so I could be there. Let me look at that. Can I look at the day really quick on
Yeah.
my calendar? Where's my calendar? It's on the 15th of
August.
August.
Yay, at the
Yeah.
clam.
Yeah, it's like a clam dip party.
It'll be on your website. People will
Yeah,
find.
It's at the Crown and Anchor, the same place the Dina Martina show is.
That's thrilling. I love it. I have always longed to do a summertime gay like Fire Island moment, like
Mhm.
let's work out in all of these fun places and enjoy. Okay. You also do photography. Very good photography too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Your
Yeah.
portrait work is really good.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I started with I did go to school. That was my study. But film because digital was not really that good yet. Um,
True.
so we really didn't think it was ever gonna be good. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so yeah, and that's moved a lot. I used to do a lot of weddings. I still do them here and there because they're beautiful and they pay well. But I do more headshots and stuff like that and portraits now, some boudoir, and really, I'm willing to do whatever, whatever you want, really. I love doing boudoir. It's sad because I can't really share those very often, because they're private. But yeah.
Oh, I love it. I think it's so empowering to do boudoir like as a subject, especially over time, like, as your body is
Yeah.
going to just naturally shift and change as bodies all do. Like it's nice to
Hmm.
kind of reconnect to your sensual self and like have those images and to be with a supportive photographer that helps you like cultivate an experience of feeling like
Hmm.
confident in front of a lens. Like, uh, it's such a niche skill to develop.
Yeah, yeah. I think that like that's my number one skill, period, in all those things is just making people feel comfortable.
Yeah, and like letting
Yeah,
their freak flag fly a little bit. Um,
definitely.
okay. Anything else you do for money? You're also a wedding officiant. Sometimes you officiate weddings.
Yeah, I actually would love to do that more. For a while, I said no because it isn't, like I say that I'm not money driven, but in this conversation, it sounds like I mean, but a lot of times it would make more as a photographer. So I usually would kind of like, oh, I don't want to market that too much because I get, paid three times as much as a photographer than an officiant. But your work is done as an officiate after the wedding, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And it's not quite as exhausting and it's like really personal. Like I thought the best seat in the house was the photographer because I'm allowed to like zoom in and get in all the different crevices. But like the last wedding I officiated, like they were closer to me than each other.
Yes.
Like I was looking into both of the bride's eyes and like it was like I felt like I was getting married. It was adorable.
It really is the best seat in the house, I have to say. Um,
So good.
yeah, I love doing weddings. I find it like it's also not something I market. It's so funny when you have like a lot of competencies, you have to decide what the marketing is going to be and like what you're going to market and how you're going to do it. And like it's all good, like we're supposed to contain multitudes, especially if you have like strong Gemini placements uh
Right.
on your work in the world.
Well, and
Um,
I finally got the perfect outfit, so now I need to do more of them,
great. Yeah.
Yeah, that fashion brand half bride, half groom outfit. It looks so
Oh,
good if one person is dressed, if the person's wearing white and someone's wearing a dark color when they crisscross it. It looks so good.
oh, thank you for that. Oh, that is a good outfit.
Yeah.
Fashion brand. It's funny because fashion brand sounds like a weird sweatshop thing, but it's just this like cute indie designer in LA, right?
Yeah, it's totally opposite from that, but she's very funny and sarcastic and they're expensive pieces, so I have to work. I feel like after I buy one, I need to like pay it off.
Yeah, she needs to earn her keep. Oh,
Exactly.
I love it. I remember I spent a lot of money on this dress, but like I bought it like 15 years ago. So it's like, she's earned her
Yeah.
keep.
Yeah.
Good plus size vintage is worth it. I think. Um,
Exactly.
good indie designer pieces. Anything else you do for money that you want to talk about, Erica, next?
Well, we have that movie out, which
That's
talking
right.
about,
The whole
mhm,
movie.
yes, yeah, it's on Vimeo. I think we finally stopped. We were touring it or showing it. Like, I'm honestly tired of watching it. I've seen it so many times. I mean, I know I shouldn't say that, but there's a lot of me on it when I talk about how I was so glad I wasn't videotaping my younger naked self. Like, I'm very naked in this movie. It's everywhere. It's like the most vulnerable thing I've ever done, and it's recorded for everyone. It's like pretty much a true story. And then my two best gay male friends like amped up the storytelling because they're amazing writers and
Hmm.
but a lot of it is just like my guts. So
Ooh, I'm excited to see it. I'm glad it's on Vimeo now.
yeah,
We'll put a
yeah.
link to that in the show notes too, and you can watch. What's it called? It's like a very long title.
It's just Erica's first holy shit.
That's not a long title. Okay, I thought it was something more. Is it about you running for mayor of Austin?
Well, it has something to do with me running. Like that is part of the story. Yeah. And I did. Yeah, I ran for mayor of Boston, not running this year, which was I have so many t-shirts, Bevan, that say picnics. I was really that was like the main reason why I wanted to run again. I was like, oh, all this merch.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I would have done fine. Like, have you ever done that where you like your shirts sell out so fast that then you're like, oh, I should have bought more. So then you're like, I'll buy more, and this time I'll go double because they were like flying. But then you're just stuck with them. You're like, okay, lesson learned. Like, if they sell out, they sell out. Because I just
Yeah.
spent everything we made, and now I have like I should make a quilt, honestly.
It's one of those things where like you can never know, and this is why I kind of love all the advances we've got in print on demand stuff because like the
Hmm.
first run of Fat Kid Dance Party t-shirts, I put so much time and effort and money into them, and now I have like still some in my shed. You know what I mean? And it's like, and it's
Yeah,
the extended sizes that I like labored so hard to make sure we had, but like I have a lot of 6X shirts, and so, and it's like an old logo too. It's like the same basic logo, but like it's got my long subtitle, which I realized I didn't need to have, and so it's like, it's dead stock. I'm not going to sell it again. It's just here,
I
and
know.
yeah, so it's hard. Like when you tour and stuff, you want to give people things that they can touch and feel, but I don't know about t-shirts anymore.
Well, I think it really is because I've watched like Beth at Dyke Bar and stuff. Like I think and I know, I mean the movie we sold a lot of the shirts,
Oh,
But
fair.
so it was like when it's like if you have an event, you get enough for that event and you don't worry about selling out. I think that's the number one thing. You're like, when we're out, we're out. That's the thing. And then you'll make the money on that. And then
Okay, this is like I'm doing some inherent internal work around sufficiency and scarcity and abundance, right? Like sufficiency
mm-mm.
enough for the occasion. Scarcity is feeling like I'm never going to have enough. It's an insatiability. And abundance is like it can be sufficient, but it can also be too much, right? And like more than you can actually steward, right? And so like
Right.
right? So it's like really, I'm really rooting out like old scarcity stuff like in this time and like things like that, like the t-shirt stuff. It's like, oh, and it's like people pleasing too. Like I don't want someone to not get the thing, but
Sure.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
uh,
It is hard, but also like I try it, and especially with things like merch, like just try to have a little bit of grace around like no one's that mad at me about it, my merch. You know what I mean?
no one's that mad. People are
Yeah.
at most disappointed. And you know what? You can live with disappointing people. Like you are an out queer,
Yeah.
like you are a
Yeah.
person who supports abortion rights in Texas. Like there's lots of people who are going to be disappointed with your choices, like
Yes. Yes. But that is like something that kind of happens with like experience and dare I say age, you know? Like
hmm
letting things go is like a thing that I just think, I mean, and sometimes, of course, like when you're having like a bad day or something, you might like think let things kind of spiral too far. Um, but usually now it's like on some level I can understand that something's not personal or that like, yeah, people will just get over it. Or like how many times, especially as a sober person, like, um, like I do still make mistakes and do shitty things, but like there's been so many times I've been like, oh man, I'm so sorry I said this or did this. And the person I'm talking to has no idea what I'm talking about, you
Yeah.
know? You're like, oh my God, I just labored like so long over this and it wasn't even hurtful to them,
Isn't that
you know?
interesting? Yeah.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
What do you do when you're having a spiral day? Like when you notice things are spiraling in your brain?
Oh man. I have so many tools in my tool belt and I have to say I don't always like I don't I like to like not listen to myself and like flog it. I'm
You
just
like
like,
to indulge in
oh,
it.
I
Yeah.
do. I do. But I do have like a lot of friends that have known me for a really long time. So I like to talk it out. And I'm thankful that, we've known each other long enough that people are honest with me. So even if it's like annoying, I usually have people that'll be like, yeah. And I used to have group therapy and a therapist, and I'm suffering right now from not having those things. But and also like, yeah, the letting go part is usually just time, breathing it out,
Yeah. Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Just time, breathing it out. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love that you're self-aware enough to realize that not having those tools of group therapy and a therapist are creating suffering for you.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you know that I'm dating did I tell you I'm dating a cis male? I don't tell a lot of people that. I'm telling everyone now. I'm telling you.
Telling the internet. Well, right now, this male is so blessed to have your attention and affection. Is this a not all men man?
Is it what?
You know how we say not all men.
Oh. I don't know. I mean, yes, yes. I think it would be impossible. We've been literally dating for 3 years.
Heck, yeah, that's some like by then, like you really start to see the conditioning and if it's sticking with this one or if he's willing to be a traitor to his kind.
No, he's like a really good listener. It's crazy because you do have to interrupt him. Like he talks a lot as I do too. So, you always find the things that you're kind of bad at annoying other people. I feel like that's like the things I'm gonna be like, ugh, but it's like something that I've struggled with, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I was getting really mad at him the other day because he's a dude, basically. Like that's what my brain was. And so I was spiraling about that because it's like I don't have to be with a cis dude. Like, I thought this was temporary and like and now I've like chosen this, and I like called my brother because I was supposed to see him and we don't really talk like this. We're not super close, but I was like, thought maybe it'd be helpful to talk to another dude, and
Mhm.
it he was like, at some point he was like, well, there has to be some advantages to dating a guy, right? And I was like, zero, none. I don't know what you're talking about. What are they? And he was like, I don't know. It's very late. I want to go to bed. I was like, fine. But then, like, 'cause that's where I'm at. Like, there isn't maybe when I was 20 or something, like, but that is not an advantage to me anymore. If anything, it makes me feel like isolated from my queer community and my own queerness. And like, I'm like, I don't know. I don't agree. But then I finally just talked to Michael about what was going on. And like, he's been really sad. And he's been going through things. And like, I just wasn't even asking and taking and then deciding that all these communication things are things that I felt um that were personal, like like I was spiraling and making it about like the male gender. really, I was the one being kind of a jerk. So it's like, oh, okay.
Ooh, I love a Gemini who is self-aware. And not that many Geminis are very self-aware. I'm not reading all Geminis, but some of them. But it's interesting too, right? Like you forget to like subjectify people, and I think like, my women in gender studies degree taught me a lot of things, including that men suffer under patriarchy as well, right? And so it's interesting, right? Like sometimes people just need a little tenderness and like consideration. And like I've also experienced, I mean, I've dated many masculine women and masculine identified people, and boy, howdy, can they like also do the dude things, right? In quotes, but
For sure. Yeah.
um,
We all can, right? We're all part of it.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I used to be really like law school teaches you a lot of things about how to be the worst version of yourself. And like, I had to make a choice, like in my second long-term relationship, I'm not doing any of those lawyer things in my romantic relationships. Like, I can't bring that home in this way. Like, this is because I can be right in every argument, but like, nobody wins a fight, Erica. Nobody wins a fight, like, the best way to win is to not engage.
Yeah,
Just like,
that's so true. Yeah.
and you've got that
Well,
Sagittarius moon. So, like, there's a little bit of a fighter in you. And like the way
mhm.
you tend to feel feelings typically with Sagittarius moon is like the big feeling because of the big fire, right? And then once you explode, it's kind of fine, but like that's not actually really compatible with a lot of.
I know. Oh my God, that's what my ex-wife would say all the time. I mean, literally, I'd be like, "What? We got over it, right?" She's like, "No, I'm like scarred." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "What?" Like I thought we just like got it out.
Mhm.
But it was like it would build for her. That was like not a good way to share.
Oof.
Yeah,
I
I
would be
know.
curious what her moon sign is. You probably don't know, but it's all right. Yeah,
No,
it's all right.
I'm bad.
I know, and it's all right because like it's not there's no test for getting into the gay club. Like you can just be queer.
Yeah.
And do you okay, so you also are polyamorous, right?
Yes, yeah.
Um when did you come out to yourself as queer, and when did you come out to yourself as polyamorous?
Yes. I guess I should say that I would say we're more open than poly.
Oh, in your current situation.
Yeah, but I don't know that I've ever actually succeeded as a complete poly partner.
We're not raised with the skills we need to be particularly competent with polyamory, non-monogamy, or any
Yeah.
configuration of anything that is against the heteronormativity monogamous agenda, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the hierarchy of it all, like I don't believe in it, but I think I do still need to feel like I'm the one that has the heart place. And I think I have a hard time opening my heart to other people if someone's already there. So like physically I can be very like sexual with basically anybody. Call me. Like
For those who are deep astro nerds, Erica is a Mars and Gemini and a Venus in Cancer, which really tracks. Like the heart space is kind of full and occupied and focused.
ah,
And then Mars and Gemini just wants to explore career, desire, all of it. Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Yeah, wow. See, you're turning me. I'm not against it. I just have yeah, but you really get me.
Yeah.
Just for those that I just feel nervous when people ask me because I don't want them to know everything about me before, because the minute I say Gemini, people are always like, "Oh," I'm like, I think we're great. What?
It depends on the Gemini. You know what I mean? And it just depends on who
Yeah,
they are. It's like, are you the good twin having a good experience? Are you the good twin having a bad experience? Are you the good twin? Are you the bad twin having a good experience? Right? Like they all,
yeah,
there's a lot of permutations in one person. Um,
true.
but every sign has their like benefits and detriments. But you're also very correct to be a little guarded with your astro info because like once someone gets your birth chart, then they have a map of your soul, which like I feel
Yeah.
great about having it because I trust me. You know, I think I'm trustworthy to have a map of people's souls. Like I love understanding people through this lens, right? And I love walking people through their chart and like what it explores for them and like what
Yeah.
it indicates
You're
to
so good at it.
things. It's you know, and it's like a hobby level interest that I've just cultivated and experienced over the last like 15 years, you know? So like, you know, follow your passions and it'll all come.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I really enjoyed this more than any reading I've ever had, honestly. So good. But yeah, so that's so I feel like I've tried to be poly, but I just have so many other things to work on, and it's a challenging space to be in.
yes, it's like the hierarchy of needs is like I would rather not I like I'm so career obsessed that like in relationship often I would default to like as non-monogamous as I'm available to be like I just don't have the time, you know, because it's a lot of
Mhm.
time and processing, especially because we're not raised in a framework that like teaches us how to love multiply, right? And so like I like absolutely cultivate loving multiply like with friendships and community and people in my life, but like you know if I have that person occupying my heart like I'm obsessed, you know, like I'm like I want to know you better than you know yourself, you know, like I'm busy. um anyway.
Yeah, I know that's the same. Like, I only see Michael. I mean, we've been trying to get, I don't know, we really only hang out like once a week.
Wow.
So, yeah, and we live separately. And so I think that has really like, for me, it's great because, like when you have a lot of different jobs, like, it's just impossible to really be there all this time. And then the only negative part is that I think it is hard for us to ask when we need from each other. You know what I mean? It's like, because we're still, even after 3 years, like kind of in this place of like, well, we just call each other when we're ready to like have fun and like, and like we're not necessarily like we still have to practice being like, hey, I'm having a hard time, which is like why, as I said, like I didn't even know he was, even though I actually knew some really tragic events had happened in his life, he wasn't talking about them. And I thought he was, but he was just trying to like preserve our time for like a good time, but it wasn't, that doesn't work out. You can't just swallow that shit.
Yeah.
It's gonna come out in other ways. So yeah, I don't know. I find it really beneficial to have a lot of alone time. I'm kind of like emulating my grandmother basically, as like there's a lot of grandmas who like literally waited for, not in a mean way, but once their husbands died, their lives kind of like were better.
Yep. Yeah, I mean hello,
Yeah.
toxic
And
masculinity and all those things like yeah.
yeah, or just not having to feel. And this is the first time in my life I don't like. My friend invited me to a CODA meeting, which is like a codependency in the AA family, and it was like the first time that I was like, that's not me anymore,
Mm.
which was cool. Not that I don't have any of those tendencies ever, but it was like that isn't how my life and my relationship is structured anymore. So that's not something that I'm really having to work on as much, which is pretty cool.
And it's also like liberating to be out of a framework of needing to have a relationship escalator, you know, and needing to just because we like being around each other and we've been together for X amount of time, therefore we should be hitting these milestones when in fact every relationship is distinct and every human has changing and evolving needs and it's okay for things to just be how they work in that moment and then
Mhm.
change if they need to. But like I think I used to get very caught up in like it needs to be this way because this is what I like I'm coded to believe. And now I'm like, life is long, things permutate, and like, you know, soft caftan era, you know what I mean? Like this is we don't have to wear hard pants in this lifestyle anymore.
Isn't life so long? I know that like it goes by fast, but it is so long.
Yeah.
Like I think when you get off the escalator, you realize that, like
Yeah.
when you're like, it's more of a path. It just does feel like, wow, like I need to learn, I have to figure out how to sustain this body and this mind and like for like basically another 40 years, maybe more.
Erica, let's talk about your body. You
Oh, yeah.
were diagnosed with MS.
Mhm.
pre-pandemic. So that was like a while ago.
Yes, it was kind of like it felt like right in the middle of the pandemic. I mean, it felt like at the beginning of the pandemic because it was like all this. But yes, I got my my left leg went totally numb, and I was in the middle. Like my grandma just died. My wife and I had just like opened up our relationship, and it wasn't going well. Like her new like basically a woman she was in love with was in town and my grandpa died and I was like apparently MS a lot of these flare-ups can be like triggered by your emotional state and so I really try to stay calm when I can I can't think my why can't I think my nervous system that's the word I'm looking for
Yeah.
yeah. And so I couldn't walk on my left leg. And we thought that it was my back, which is why I started finally. I've always wanted to make those VHS cuts, but I was actually teaching from a chair, showing like doing like a video DJ Patreon for like, so I know it was already COVID. So I was already teaching these Zoom classes that I hadn't done before COVID.
Yeah.
Um, and then my hairdresser just suggested that maybe it wasn't a pinched nerve and and told me to go check out this like MS neurologist. And I did. And it was a mess, which was crazy. And then we had to wait 6 months for my insurance to okay the medicine. And I lost vision in my right eye, which
That's
was
scary.
like, it was really scary. And it was kind of the first time, like, I think the leg thing was like, it was crazy because I consider like dance to be my only form of like it's my passion, like it's where I feel like closest to the goddess and like the most creative. But losing half my vision was way more earth-shattering to me. I had never felt more scared and sad and it was wild. And I still like I can like your eye nerves don't really repair in the same way. So but so both eyes were like this, it would be pretty um like debilitating, but right now it's fine. So as long as the medicine keeps working, then I should be able to yeah, continue. But you know what, who knows? So it's scary.
It is, I mean, like all unknown things, it's scary. And
Yeah.
tell me more about lifestyle stuff that you've done that have helped your body. Because I know you said, I learned from you that like aerobics is, or dance aerobics is like helpful for MS.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. I mean, I read that one liner of like exercise is good. What exercise is good? It was like aerobics was like done.
Uh-huh.
And I was excited. But yeah, I just think that having more oxygen to your blood cells basically. And then it's also not you can modify. So you can get to that. I bet trampoline exercise is also good for it, but that wasn't written down. But I would imagine anything that brings more aerobic, you know. So yeah. So that was good. I'm already doing that, but I still have like, they use this like theory. Have you ever heard the spoon theory before? I feel like you would have.
I
Yeah.
totally know the spoon theory, but if for anybody else out there who does not know the spoon theory, why don't you give them a refresher?
Well, yeah, I mean, you probably know it better than I do because I just feel like you're better at saying things.
Okay.
But just like, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Drawers and
You
spoons
got a
is
drawer and the drawer is full of spoons, right? And that's all the energy you have for the day. And when you have chronic illness, you just have less spoons in the drawer. Sometimes you open the drawer in the morning and like you think you have 20 spoons, but it turns out you have three. Like I get through three spoons and I'm like, oh shit. Like how am I going to do the rest of the day? Well, I treat it the way I kind of treat mental health spiral days actually when I like have less spoons in the drawer. I'm just done with responsibilities today, right? So like I live my life not managing my time, but managing my priorities. And like my priorities are XYZ. And like some of my priorities ensure that I have more spoons in the drawer, right? Like, cause like if I deplete, cause if I stay up super late and like don't sleep well and eat a ton of sugar and like do all the things that I know deplete my live stressed out, like if I have a bunch of shit happening around me in life, I already know my spoons are compromised. And so like, right, like so it's just being very careful about how you
yeah.
use. the energy that you have and like how you cultivate more spoons if you can, but not for like creating capital for the state, right? Like I think a lot of us stay busy with other people's priorities, which, I mean, just the general vague, they want to keep you working, right? And like, giving them more money to bombs. But instead, I'm going to prioritize what I need to prioritize so that I can be better, so that I can serve the people I love. That's my version of the spoon theory.
No, yeah, that's good. I think I forget about the fact that like some of the things that you do with that spoon might like help you have more spoons a lot. Definitely the heat in Texas is just like really terrible.
I live in a cold climate, and that helps me a lot. I can get very heat.
Yeah,
I had to be I fainted twice in the summertime in Los Angeles because of how
yeah. Oh my
bad that
God.
heat affects me.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So that has been a thing. And I really like, you know, my spoons are geared towards work, but the work is my work, so it's different. So I have to make sure that like my brother came to visit this weekend when I called him to see how the trip went that I didn't get to see him on because I didn't have the spoons. Like it was the same week as my infusion, which gives me steroids, which messes up my sleep schedule. And I had like obligations I already made that people were counting on me, like photographing my friends, like Airbnb and like working out in the morning with my clients. And then I just called him crying. I was like, I just can't. I'm so sorry. I can't go out in the hot day and like put something in the middle of the day and work at night. Like I can't.
Yeah.
And so, I do, and like as a non-drinker, I do feel like some of my socializing has suffered in that way, you know?
It's
Like
it's a whole different world on the other side of not drinking recreationally, because that is
yeah.
like where, especially as queers, like we need third places like to go and meet our friends, right? Not work, not home, third place, right? And so you
Mhm.
kind of come out, you're 21, you have this infinite energy and body that can handle poison. Because that's my mom told me once, she's like, Bevin, alcohol is poison. And like eventually I was like, "Oh, she's fucking right." Um, but like, it's true, and so like we center our whole lives, and especially as performers, because that's where stages are, and
Mhm.
like that's like this whole, and I stopped drinking while I was a nightlife producer, which like everyone I know who was in nightlife, pretty much everyone I know that I've caught up with is not drinking anymore. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
funny. So we
Yeah.
need different third places, right? I'm a day gay now. I go to splasher size.
Yeah. Do y'all have a splasher size too, or are you just talking about my splash dad?
I'm talking about your splasher size, but
Okay.
I go to fat swim now. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love.
exactly. Yeah, so I do like, and so I love, thankfully I love my job. What I'm trying to figure out now is like, what can I do so that my, so I can show up for splash dance, but then find something that's less like energetically draining to make money,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Because like the Patreon is great. I love it, but I haven't been able to like choreograph as much as I'd like to. And so now I'm kind of working on like narrowing down, like, because they made those new categories and stuff, like kind of like making it just a better user experience and worrying less about, how much I how new the new dances are or the new, like making it a more organized catalog. But all that takes time too. Anyway, there's so
Erica, I cannot believe you bring this up, because I was literally thinking this morning during my meditation about the collections feature on Patreon and like how different that is. And I'm like, do I need to go through and like upload my videos directly to Patreon now? Like, how do I leverage this to make my user experience better? I was just thinking about this. And the thing about a Patreon and a back catalog, and you and I have both been on Patreon for a very long time, is like it's available for people who want to come and hang with us. And like that is an important thing to consider, is like, how do you make money? Like I took on a cleaning job once a week, which is, it gets in the way of me being able to teach more aerobics, but I teach as much aerobics as I can, and I can't do another physical labor job. So like, even when I was thinking, oh shit, I think I have to get a retail job because like my Patreon also has gone down over the last, I mean, I don't know anyone who's self-employed who didn't have a rough 2023 financially. Like we collectively are being affected very much by like top billionaire hoarding, right? So like this we're in a reorganization economic time, right? And so like figuring out like how are we going to do this? And I really do think Patreon is like the way of the future for art. Like it's not the music industry, it's not the film industry, it's like fans supporting the art they want to see made in the world, you know? But
Hmm.
but yeah, all the collection stuff, all of it, I get it. Like how are we going to organize
Yeah.
this? What's the best user experience for people?
Well, and it used to be better too. Like, not better. I'm glad they have the categories, but it's hard as a previous user to go in and organize it. If we'd had it to begin with, it would be great. But now it's like, oh, there's work to do on now on the back end. That used to go in, if you tagged it, it would be in different. And those tags aren't, they don't really, they're not organizing them anymore. Like they exist. But anyway,
They
we got
exist.
work to
You can link
do.
them. They're different. I was just thinking this morning, I'm like, it's going to be a day where like everyone on that tier is just going to see a ton of emails because like I had to put a bunch of things together. But it's fine. It's all good. And I love my Vimeo catalog. I love having everything with links because then like that's my body of work. I just feel so precious about it. Like, I worked hard. I've choreographed a lot. But what I have found too about choreography and like being is like people I just taught one of my earliest choreographies at my Zoom class this weekend, and it was great because there were people who had never done it before, and so it's like, as every class is unique because of the people who are there, and like it's kind of cool with the stuff that you record because then it's like more people who you don't know are there. And I like to dance. And like, oh, when I was filming in the forest a lot during the height of the quarantine, I would imagine 50 years from now, like some kid who isn't even like their parents aren't even born yet is like gonna dance with me. And like it's me at this moment dancing asynchronously and having an intimacy and teaching this person 50 years from now, right? Like that's how I feel about like what I get to create because of Patreon.
Um,
Oh
I
my God.
love that. I love that. And it's true. I find people, especially when I was doing those like discovering new people to me, but that had been around like forever. There's this one guy who did a gospel workout and it's so good. He's on maybe one of those, he might be on the VHS cut. If not, I've done him like with the Zoom class before, but when I looked into him, I was like, oh shit. Like he's been around. This guy's been doing this for like 20 years. Like, and he's like done like this obvious progression that I'm like, oh my God, it's like hardcore aerobics. And it's like now he's doing like stretching and yoga. It's just like, of course, like, cause we have to like adapt how our bodies are in order to like continue like teaching
Yeah.
physical movement. But
Yeah.
that was a really good one. I'll have to remember. It's just been a while since I've visited. But speaking of that, can I have you been looking into Richard Simmons, like that he's back out in the world? Or I don't know if he's physically out, but he's like talking to people on Facebook and stuff, like on his posts.
Is he? I don't pay that much attention to what Richard Simmons is doing now since he ghosted everyone so emotionally violently. Love him, don't appreciate his behavior. And so my trust with Richard Simmons is a little broken.
Oh, well, what's crazy is that I gave him this huge amount of grace around that period, but also because in my mind, I thought maybe he was like a cat, like going to hide to die or something. Isn't that terrible? Like,
Yeah,
I was like, oh, like,
damn. I was just like,
right?
he's hiding under
He's
the bed. He's
dealing,
gonna die there. Yeah.
right. I was like, oh, he has maybe he's having dementia and he doesn't want like everyone to like witness it. Like, that's definitely, I don't want everyone to witness like that if I'm going through that. It sounds terrible. I mean, I guess at that point, maybe who cares? But still. But no, the fact that he's like out now and
Okay.
apparently he was really mad that Polly Shore played him in that short documentary.
Oh, I didn't see that. And
Not
also, Polly
documentary,
Shore
obviously.
seems like an obvious choice to play Richard Simmons. So I don't know
He's
what you're
actually
offended.
so good. I thought it was so good. And then, but like our mutual friend Josh, like he even wrote, he was like, I don't know, he kind of said something a little snarky about that choice. And I was like, really? Because Josh used to go to his class a lot. So I'm like, well, maybe people that really know Richard wouldn't like, or people that like, I don't know, weirdly live in LA and actually, they all know, you were there. Like people know things about famous people that like you're like, well, like we wouldn't know. It's just
Yeah.
like because someone's cousin is like their friend or something. But yeah, I don't know. Like maybe Pauly Shore isn't a nice guy. I don't know. I felt like that he gave life. Like it wasn't like I couldn't see Pauly Shore at all, but like his just like manic, positive, like vibe was totally working for Richard. And the
Yeah.
story was like really sweet. So I don't know. I loved it. But apparently Richard did not, and that's why he's like come back out to like talk to his people because he, I guess, which is fair, wants like to still be in charge of his voice.
I mean, listen, I actually really respect it, and I want to choose to have more grace with more people. And so there's an opportunity to offer more grace to Richard Simmons because, like, here's the thing: when you disappear from the narrative, you're allowing other people to step up and take control of the story. And like, I was thinking about this the other day, actually. When I first got into John Clayton Mayer, like as an artist, and like, it was like 2019, and I got real curious, especially like, early quarantine, and so I did a deep rabbit hole, listened to like all the podcasts I could listen to, and there's like a YouTube documentary that a fan made, and I'm like, well, John didn't create his own documentary, so I'm gonna watch this fan, because I typically don't like to go to third party information. I like to have my firsthand due diligence and like connect to the artist and how they think and what they're talking about, right? And so it's like when you choose not to create your own thing, when you choose not to write your book, someone else might write a book about you, right? Like Richard Simmons disappeared, and so other people filled in the narrative, and like it's I think Polly Shore is a great choice, like simply because of the big personality and the aesthetic, and like that's kind of like you can't replicating big personality is hard to do. Like an actor can't just do that. Like that's like someone who has a big personality can do it, like so. And I've always loved the spirit of Richard Simmons and like what he brought to his classes.
Yeah, I mean, he was a huge advocate, honestly. I mean, he was like pretty amazing. The first person to actually like bring wellness and fitness to people outside of normative physical culture.
What was
Pretty
you
incredible.
got to take classes with him, right? You came out to LA and did a couple classes with him. What was your experience of his classes?
Yeah, I'm just gonna grab it because it's right here. Uh,
Ooh, we have a
I didn't wear tights today, but I was in this video with him, Project Hope. I don't even, this is probably the right disc, but I think it came with a few. But yeah, I came to be in his actual last workout video. Um,
what a
and yeah, it was so fun. Had to sign something to say that I was a LA resident. I don't know if it was for tax reasons or the whatever the anyway, no one got paid or anything, which is the privilege of part of me actually, because I don't know about Bevan, I honestly personally can't pay a lot of the people that participate in my videos because I don't make any money. But part of me is like, isn't Richard like rich? Like, why weren't we paying?
That's
Like,
a good question because I paid, I mean, in my workout video series, the one production I've done, the actual production, I crowdfunded. And so I paid everyone
mhm.
who was like a main dancer who worked for like a full day, plus like, we did some meetings ahead of time. I paid them $50 as a stipend. Plus they got t-shirts and they got, I fed them at the shoot and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And like I wish I could have paid them more, but like
yeah.
I at this point that video series isn't even paying the rent that I have to pay Vimeo for the on-demand services. So like,
That's what I'm
like,
talking about.
that's just so
All
real.
those,
Like the last 2 years I
yeah,
haven't sold even enough of those videos to pay how much it costs to run a Vimeo on demand. And I'm obligated and feel responsible to keep that going because everyone who's ever bought it like gets to have access to that for as long as Vimeo exists, right? So like throw my hands up in the air and try. So, but there were people who came to be in the party scene that were there for like an hour who like did the line dance portion of the workout.
yeah.
and couldn't pay them, but they did it because they wanted to show up and do it. But like even showing up and being in a work, I mean, in my rich lady fantasies, which I hope to get to produce big workout videos again, like I want to pay everyone. You know what I mean? Like I want people to feel well compensated and like they had a good time too.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. I mean, as a Richard Simmons fan girl, I did not mind, even though it cost me money to fly to LA 3 times. It was crazy.
3 times you had to go?
So probably not.
No.
But I didn't want anyone, it was supposed to be required. I later met people that like didn't go to every single rehearsal and it was
Oh.
fine. They just were honest about where they lived and like they did live in the area. I don't know. They had other plans and they were able to work it out. But since I lived in Texas, I didn't want anyone to know. I'm
Oh.
not a liar. Like it just doesn't come to my mind to say like, oh, like to make up some story about like I have a wedding or when I like the truth is I just live in Texas and I don't want anyone to know so I can continue to be in the video. Um, one of the tickets was actually given to me by Judy Massette, who owns Jazzercise, the creator of Jazzercise.
Whoa.
So I know that felt like really epic. But
Very
it's just
anointed, Erica.
I know.
Yeah, yeah.
I wish I wish that like yeah, I wish we were like on more like constant communication terms, but I knew her son.
Oh,
So he hooked that up and she had a lot of frequent flyer miles, I guess. So it was really cool.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, but yeah, he was amazing. That is one thing about the Facebook stuff that I worry about a tiny bit is that I've heard a lot of the stories he's saying on Facebook. So, I mean, anyone that knows him could literally be copying and pasting like an old story that he's posted or something because he does tell a lot of like, I mean, because they're great stories. Like, why wouldn't you repeat them? But I was like, oh, I've heard this story. And I only got to listen to like, his stories for a limited time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but I had to audition at the first trip and then the second trip, I guess there was like a rehearsal and then I don't know. But yeah, I came 3 times.
What did it feel like working out with him? Was he like a good instructor? Like,
I mean,
did
the class was amazing.
okay.
I've never experienced anything like it in my life. Like because it's kind of how I do square dancing.
Square
Forgot to
dancing,
talk
that's
about
true. Yeah.
that. But it's kind of like that when there's enough people in the room that know what's going on, it just things can happen that you didn't mean to do. So like the most magical part, which you can't really understand it until you're doing it. But at one point, we're all facing, like a normal class, this direction, and all of a sudden, it's just like this, and we're facing each other with like 120 people. It feels like maybe it's like 60. Who knows? The room is full, but it was somehow enough people knew what was going on. I was in the line that whenever he was like, la, 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 and all of a sudden we're all here. And when I teach class, I have to be like, stop the music. Okay, everybody, face each other, shimmy towards it, shimmy back. What I mean? Like, let's practice it. Okay, starting the music. Like I make it performative. I think it's fine and fun, but the fact that like the whole room was able to shift without me participating in that, but mentally, but physically doing it. When I'm talking about hypnosis through movement. I'm
Yes.
talking about like that is what I'm talking about. Like he like moves that space in a way that is magic. And then he does like at the end, he has like, he always has to make a big show about some hot dude in the room. And like, it's just amazing. It's like honestly, like you go there knowing what you're already into, hopefully, because you know who he is and you've seen his interviews and how even though he's never said like I'm gay, he hits on men in every interview everywhere. Um, it's just so funny that I don't think he's ever been quoted admitting it. But um I don't know if the younger generation would love how Richard it's like it's like the gay I grew up with, just
Yeah.
like a non-consensual, like I'm hitting on you and I'm making you maybe uncomfortable, but I'm so outrageous and fun that like no one you just you can tell everyone's enjoying it, but I don't know. I wonder sometimes like if it is tickling a part of old, like my generation that like may not translate in newer generations. Does that make sense?
Yes, it absolutely does. Like, I think if you were raised without consent, my therapist is a gay man, and we talk
Uh-huh.
about men and consent sometimes, because like men are not raised, especially previous men, like boomer men and, Gen X men, like not raised with consent, like as a foundation, and like the current generations are raised more and more, right? Like,
Hmm.
so I think that, yeah, I've heard a lot about Richard and consent. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, like, and just, the people he would pick on, like as his like hot dude for the day, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, like, and being willing to understand consent is just, I think, a humility that not everyone is available for. And like, I'm curious if this time has taught him anything, because like I think in some ways, like what I understood from like the Missing Richard Simmons podcast, which was like a huge inspiration for me to give aerobics a shot.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, like it was that summer where I was birthing the idea to do the class. Um, because I was taking aerobics and I was experiencing these like quote all levels classes that were not all levels. And then I was listening to Missing Richard Simmons and like kind of hearing about how he would like, I was like, oh, this is like a really mismatched energetic leak. Like he is like giving, 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 but he's not receiving. And like when you're not in balance, you burn yourself out so hard that you end up crashing like he did.
Mm.
And like it kind of, I mean, it was a very emotionally violent choice, I think, to like cut everyone in his life off, and including his students and people, but it's also like there's a humility in saying, hey, this is unsustainable for me and I need to change. And like, not everyone has the language or the emotional support to even understand that when it's happening, which like, I do have compassion and grace for. Um, and I mean,
Yeah.
I hope he's
And
doing okay.
he never said the word I'm gay, you
And he never
know?
said the word I'm done either, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
or I need a break or whatever, right? Like he just,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah. He
cried.
doesn't but when it comes to like, yeah, and then after the class, he has like that old school like TV show situation where he talks about feelings and you share around the circle and he kisses everyone in the room. Is that maybe that's before the class? It's probably before the
It,
class. I can't
he did
remember
it.
now.
He did it before the class simply because when I would ask people when I met in LA who had been to his classes, I would fire questions at them because I was starting as an aerobics instructor. So I'm like, teach me what you liked about him. And everyone talked about the circle up, and it was before class. And I was always like,
Mhm.
that doesn't make sense to me. I want to do an after class hangout. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
like for me, I center the hangout around self-care, and he centered his hangout around weight loss. And so like I feel like that's
Mm.
just a different, I mean, it's the way we are totally differently vibed and differently valued people. Like I have different values than
Yeah.
humans, which is fine, but we have a similar big personality and a similar desire to just like have fun and like,
Yeah.
make it fun for people to work out, but just different
I
values.
don't And when you talk about growth, I don't know if you would see this as necessarily growth, but I did experience when I was in this class, one woman was like, Richard, Richard, and really excited. And she had just gotten, I guess, a text from a friend that had lost another pound and was celebrating it. And Richard said, this is not the best way to say it, but he just was like, you know what? One, he said something to like basically be like, who cares? It was like, who cares? He was like, good for her. But honestly, like, once you lose, like, once you're healthy, I think he said something about if you're like, he said something that didn't make any sense at all. Something about like, if your face looks skinny, which is very weird, fucked up thing to say. But you could tell what he was trying to say is like, I'm not focusing on that anymore, is what it felt
Oh,
like to me. I
okay.
don't know for sure, but in my brain, he was, and maybe it was just in that moment, it felt like he was trying to figure out a way to be like, you know what? Like, maybe that's not the focus, but maybe that, I don't know. It just did stand out to me because you could not see the contrast of her being really excited about it and me being kind of like, what, like, you know,
Yeah.
And then him like responding in like a, but his answer was also fucked up. But yes, he would like, but then he'd also talk about like shoving a sandwich up his, he'd be like, I just want to shove that sandwich up my butt. I swear he said that. I swear.
Wow.
A crab roll specifically.
Oh, a crab roll. I mean, listen. Wow. That is also fascinating. Like the it's like the way, okay, face being fat or not, like I see so much face stuff more so. You already talked about steroids, more so with like medication, um, than
Mm-hmm.
weight loss or not, right? And like
Yeah.
and honestly, dairy, you know what I mean? Like I was, so the picture on my podcast is me naked. It's from a magazine. And like I knew going into the shoot that I was the only fat girl in the shoot, and I was selected because I was fat. And so I had been on a candida cleanse because like my gut health was all fucked up. But I was like, you know what? Like if I'm supposed to be the fat girl, I need to get some visual in the face. And so I went back on dairy for the 2 weeks before the shoot so that I could fill out my face a little bit, and like no regrets. I had like another, I set myself back on the Candida cleanse, so I had a few more months after that. But
Oh my God.
because
Kevin.
the thing about a Candida cleanse is you have to really starve the Candida, right? And when you feed it dairy and sugar, like it's like munching back up. But it was all good. It was fine. You
Yeah,
know.
that's just a lot of work to have to go through. I couldn't, cleanses are so hard. I cannot. It's like every time they fuck me up mentally. Like I'm just like literally the 2 days after something I'm trying, I'll be like, and now I will buy an entire angel food cake and eat it in one sitting because I like feel like I deprived myself. Like I have to like, yeah. But I'm sure if it was like for my gut health or I don't know. I mean, I quit smoking and drinking for like health reasons. So if it was like if I knew it would do like a but I can't believe you did that twice. Oh my God.
I quit drinking also like a year before all that, like so it was like there was a lot I had already gone through, but the I saw so many marked differences in my physical health and experience in my
Mm,
body that like I was like, oh, clearly this is something my body really needs. And like I don't like cleanses
uh,
where there's any deprivation. So this was the kind of thing where like it was just like it's not this, but it's as much of this other stuff as you want, right? Like and so like
oh nice. Yeah. Okay.
it's
Hmm.
listen, as long as I can still eat bacon and like fruit, like I'm having a good time in life. So like uh
Yeah.
but it's interesting. It was also almost like a marathon, like or like a Spartan race for like my anti-diet culture, because it's like how can I approach this new protocol of eating that's in alignment with my body and like healing for my body from this like radically anti-diet approach, because like the first day where I had all this like fresh food on my table and I was trying to figure out where I was going to store all of it in New York City, like I was like this feels very diety and I need to figure out how to make this not about that. And so it was like being willing to grow and do the mental gymnastics to not fall into the old patterns and to create new like affirmations around how making all this bone broth is like really helping me, and like really like I'm like a witch conjuring these cauldrons for my body's well-being.
Oh
So
yeah. Chicken broth.
all of the things. Like I listen, when you do stuff like that, like the rotisserie chicken lifestyle, like of taking like your chicken from the good, humane butcher and like
Yeah.
roasting it,
Yeah.
getting all the bones, making the broth, like it feels very like
I
ancestral
love doing
for
that.
me, like
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't have to behead the chicken and pluck the feathers, right? But like, it just felt like use all the things, do all the things, and like make my at the time my
Hmm.
cats happy with all the gizzards and things
Yeah.
they get to eat.
I love it. Liver is really good for MS.
Oh.
Hmm. So I was air frying it for a while. It really makes the kitchen smell terrible, but I can, you know,
Okay.
deal with
I watched a documentary last night with my Patreon community, um, called the Your Fat Friend documentary. It's only streaming until June 17th, but it's very good. And there was this woman talking about her Weight Watchers diet where like there was like a liver thing they had to eat, and she's like, I hated liver so much, so I would freeze it so that I could just take it like pills. Um,
that.
but
That's a
interesting.
good idea.
Yeah. So listen,
Yeah.
that's that.
Thank you. I like kind of like the rich taste of liver, but I don't like having it. It's like something I'd rather eat out or something, you know. But I mean, it's a weird thing to go. I mean, I guess you do like a fancy butcher shop or something, but
Yeah.
yeah, my
Erica,
outs. Oh yeah.
um, we should probably wrap up this podcast. We've done so much, and yeah, there's so much I still wanted to ask you that we didn't get to. So you're gonna have to come back if you want.
Oh my God, we can't talk about the out story. It's sad. It's out. It's sick. It's June. Well, I
Oh,
don't really. It's not that interesting, I guess. You know.
we can come back to it. We'll come
Okay.
back. We'll have it. It's funny because usually the second episode with people is like not the backstory, but I really feel like the second episode is gonna be the backstory because we're body nerds and aerobics nerds, and we can talk about that stuff all the time. Uh,
Well, I also want to talk to you before you leave me
yes.
that July 12th
Uh-huh.
is Richard Simmons' birthday.
Cancer. Yeah.
And I wanted to put on, I don't know how I could really use some collaboration ideas. My dream was to have everyone in all different cities, but it'd be just great to have a bunch of different aerobics people doing something special to memorialize him. I was thinking even just like watching one of his dances and learning the choreography and then like using that in your class or something, but like making a montage in my mind. I could get a million people to do it all at once, and then he would come out of his house and it would be
It would be like a spell we cast to draw him
yeah
out, like
yeah
how
yeah.
on St. Patrick's Day people put out traps for leprechauns. This would be his birthday celebration that we would lure him out. My favorite Richard Simmons dance move is this, where you pump your heart with your heart, your hands in a heart, and then you release it because I always say because love always never returns void.
I love that. Did you get rainbow arms from him too? I've used, I think
I
I
use
can't
rainbow
remember if I
arms
did
all
that
the
from
time, but I don't
you.
know that I consciously knew it was from him because like it's just so obvious, right? Like just draw a rainbow with your arm.
Well, I'm not sure. I might have learned it from you. That's why I'm asking. I was
No.
like, it might have been you,
I did not
but
intentionally learn it from Richard Simmons. I think I just like know that that's rainbow
yeah,
arms. For
yeah.
this baby rainbows.
Oh, little baby rainbow, so
Mhm,
cute.
mhm, mhm. Oh, it's one of my favorite things to do, baby rainbows.
It's fun to do with you. Synchronicity is so good. It just feels
It
so
really
cute.
It does. It feels so good. And like what you were saying before about like everyone moving at the same time unconsciously, like that I think heals trauma because trauma, the result of trauma is it cuts your trust away from other humans. And I think things like dancing, like line dancing and things like that in sync with other people creates like it forges those trust bonds again with other humans.
Yeah,
Things.
so good. I want to bring square dancing to you. I can't wait to do that.
I can't wait to square dance with you. Thank you for making that word. Square dance. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. We need it.
So good. I wear a little beard when I dance with the old people, so they treat me like the man.
You know, you only need three visual cues for someone to buy into your gender. I learned that when I was doing drag.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You're just one of
More
them.
notes.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
The donut pen notes. Erica Nix, I love you passionately with the fire of a thousand suns.
Ah, wow. I love you so much. So
Yeah. Oh.